Okay.
All right.
And whatever you're going to share from whatever platform, just like your phone or your computer, just make sure your volume's down when you go into the page or you'll hear me speak. We are live. It went through. That's a good thing. This is a positive. Hey guys, we are live today with Matthew or Matt and Haley Chase. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for
I'm
having
very
us.
excited. Absolutely. Very excited to have you on the show. Haley's a nice surprise here. We're going to talk about MAGA, which is Mental Awareness and Grief Assistance. I'm excited to talk about the topic. I think it couldn't be any more timely. But people love to hear personal journey. They want to know why. What's the why behind it? What does it even mean? And then, of course, they want to know a little bit about you, probably a lot more about you, Matt. So I'm going to share the show and dig in. Let's talk about it. Tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah. So, Ted, you and I both have some things in common. We both like to be involved with the community, and we're both, from a professional standpoint, loan officers, right? So a lot of people say we would be competition, but I don't believe that's the case. I think it's better to partner in any ways you can. So yeah, a little bit about me. First, I want to introduce my daughter, Haley,
Hi.
also known as Smile and Wave Girl. So Haley, you need to talk so your screen shows up, but give her a smile and wave. Come on. There you go. So a little bit about me. So I've been in the mortgage business for about 2 years, but this foundation is what we're here to talk about. And it is very near and dear to both my heart and my daughter's heart. It kind of came about by unfortunate circumstances that we've kind of tried to take something that was negative and make it into a positive. My mother, Haley's grandmother, passed away November 23rd of what at first we thought was a potential opioid overdose. That actually, after all the toxicology reports and whatnot came back, it turned out that it was not that. It was a heart attack that was brought on by diabetes and high blood pressure. Now, I do believe wholeheartedly that a lot of that had to do with, mental health issues. She suffered from depression. And I think that ultimately she died of a broken heart, as unfortunate as that may sound. But our goal is to make this, turn it into something positive to help other people, because if it's one thing Haley and I both know, it's that my mom would not have wanted anyone to suffer the way she did while she was here with us. So that's kind of where MAGA came from. Now, the name MAGA, Mental Awareness and Grief Assistance, that stems from when my nephew was younger, as a little kid, toddler, he called my mom MAGA because he couldn't say grandma. So
love it.
Kind of stuck, and it's just been there ever since, and it's crazy because I know a lot of people, when they think of MAGA, they think of, the political side of it, but this MAGA has been around much longer, and it's a MAGA that everybody can get behind. You know what I mean? So the acronym is Mental Awareness and Grief Assistance. Our focus is to make mental health affordable for everyone. We want to make sure that people are able to go in and see counselors and talk about things. I like to call them life coaches personally, because counselors has a bad stigma to it,
Sure.
I make sure to see mine. Haley's been seeing one as well, and neither one of us are ashamed to admit it. I think that everybody should be talking to somebody.
Why do you think there's such a stigma on that?
Well, I think it's funny because I've had conversations even with a good friend of mine, Dane Marrero, who's a motivational speaker. And a lot of it is, he's big into superheroes, and his take is really unique because he's like, if you look at superheroes, they all go through a dark moment before they actually become a superhero. Like Batman, his parents were killed in front of him as a kid, so he's like, and superheroes, they're known to hold down the fort, so from a man standpoint is really all I can speak to. And as a father, we're known to be the providers, the protectors, and the strong ones, but who's the superhero to the superhero?
Right.
You know what I mean? Who does the superhero, who's super dad, go to for help? And it becomes one of those things where even when with the media and with a lot of TV shows, I've seen shows where the president was seeing a counselor, and it got out there, and everybody's like, oh, he's weak. So I think the stigma is that people don't want to admit that they have challenges, and it all boils down to accountability and just understanding and compassion for one another.
And also with this generation, I feel like it has a lot to do with parents also, because they don't really want to admit that their kid needs help as well as they do.
I agree. I think people that's absolutely right. I think people don't want to admit, either for their kids or for themselves, that they could use somebody to talk to. One of the things we talk about on the show a lot, I do post it a lot on my social media, is those people that you think are the strongest, make sure you reach out to them, because you don't normally have somebody to talk to. They don't have somebody to release to. They're usually the ones that people go to. They're viewed as the strongest, so everybody goes to them. And it's unfortunate. I talk about, and I'd love to share it on the show, I had 5 years of intensive counseling because I have PTSD, and it was life-changing for me. And so it's amazing to me that people still in this day and age, with everything that we have going on, still look at it as a weakness, I think is what you said, Matt. And that's true. It's just, to me, it's crazy.
It is crazy. You know, I mean, Ted, I went through one of my darkest hours end of last year. You know, in the beginning of 2019, I had a bold prayer, which I believe we all should start the year off with, a bold prayer from a Christian standpoint. I am very strong in my faith, and that's another thing I'm not ashamed of, you know. But a prayer that is so powerful that it almost seems unattainable. You know what I mean? And my bold prayer was to draw closer to Christ and stronger in my faith, no matter what the outcome and what it took. And, you know, when it's usually not until we're brought to our knees physically that we are able to succumb and surrender ourselves and understand that we really have a lot less control than what we could even believe. I mean, people think that if you have money, you have control and you have power, or that if you have a good job. But this virus right now is showing everybody how little control we all actually have. The only thing we can control is our compassion for one another and our ability to be there to support each other. And the way I pulled myself out of that dark place was, you know, through my relationship with God. But not only that, it was trying to help other people, because that's what made me feel good, you know. And I would do open prayer forums on our prayer board, and I would reach out to friends and realtors and just family and try and be there to lift them up. You know, I was there for my sister during the loss of my mom, and she took it very hard. And, you know, I was strong for my daughter, you know what I mean? But I didn't really take the time that I needed to grieve. So my grief came in the form of, you know, secluding myself. And at night, I'd wake up in the morning with tears on my pillow, not knowing where they came from. I'd go to bed crying myself to sleep. And it took me finally waking up and realizing, Matt, you need to talk to somebody. You know what I mean? You're not Superman, and you can try to be that guy, but you've got weaknesses like everyone else. And I think the sooner we all realize that, the healthier our society will be as a whole. You know, nobody expects you to be perfect, and nobody expects you to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders.
I agree 100%. And I wonder what you guys are seeing, or if you're seeing more of a stress, more of a, somebody was talking about it on the show, that there's almost a grieving that's going on that we're not talking about, because we're grieving our old way of doing things, or we're grieving not being able to see people, or we're grieving because we're not able to go to family events. We're not able to go to funerals. People are grieving. There's a whole grief process going on right now that we don't talk about because of the lockdown.
Right. You've got
more people to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You've got people in hospitals right now, or families that are in hospitals, and the family can't even go visit them, that are sick with this virus. You know, I had a good friend of mine from my church reach out to you this morning, and, you know, I'm not going to mention names, but he and his wife are having some struggles, you know. And it's, again, I believe that what the enemy intended for evil, God always turns for good, you know. So the enemy's putting people in homes, and you've got families that are in the middle of divorces or falling apart that are now forced to be quarantined with one another. Mm-hmm. And at this point is where you need to really, you hit your knees and start praying and repenting and for asking for forgiveness, and really starting to learn your partner's heart, because that's where the enemy's going to be beat. You know, that's where you will be able to overcome. And you can this is a great time for you to make the relationship stronger than it ever was. I mean, you know, people look at the quarantine, some people I hear on Facebook, and it's heartbreaking to me. They're like, oh, I'm stuck with my wife. I'd rather be stuck in a cage with lions. I mean, you see all these memes out there, and I'm like, you know, if that's the life you're living, then it's very disheartening to hear. And home is supposed to be where the heart is, Ted, you know? So if you're not happy being trapped where the heart is, then maybe you need to start searching your own heart and really find out what's missing, you know? And through that, counseling can help.
So do you provide counseling? Are you like a conduit for, if somebody comes to you and says, all right, Matt, I'd really like to see a counselor. Here's my issue. Do you refer them to a counselor? Is it like a service? Is it an organization to help people get to the services that they need?
So great question. I'm going to read you our mission, right? This is our mission statement, and it's basically to break the chains of mental health issues and grief by providing affordable mental health counseling to those in need, to encourage and empower communities to assist those in need, to turn away from drugs and alcohol and turn to God for inner peace and strength, and to provide a safe place to discuss and overcome struggles through the grace of God, understanding, and human connection. So those are the three things. Now, I know it doesn't really touch on how we're going to do that. The way that we're working on that is Haley is part of our junior board. She's the president of the junior board. Her friend Lauren is right now acting secretary of the junior board. Melissa Rodriguez, a good friend of both of ours. She's the secretary. And then we have Nikki Langley, who's a director of the board. And Ted, we want to thank you also, from the bottom of our hearts for, your ability and your willingness to join as well. It shows you believe in it, and we couldn't be more appreciative.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Absolutely, man. We really do appreciate it. It's good to have good people that have a good heart that all stand for the same cause. So what our goal is, I worked on a script for Haley and Lauren, because I believe in getting kids actively involved. I mean, that's how we teach them how to grow, is through our actions, and through guidance and leadership. So Haley and Lauren right now, they've been tasked with reaching out to mental health counselors in the Central Florida area. Eventually want this to grow nationwide, and who knows, potentially, if God willing, it'll go globally. But they've been tasked with reaching out to mental health counselors and seeing if they'd be willing to join our network. So first, we're working on building up a network of mental health counselors that are agreeing to join. And what that network is going to do is they're basically agreeing to giving up to a 50% discount off their hourly rate for anyone referred by the foundation. So that would obviously be tax deductible by them. We would provide them with statements and an agreement letter letting them know that, okay, this person joined, we've agreed 50%. They can then write that off on their taxes, obviously. The foundation, through monies gained and funds earned and people and generous contributions and donations, would then cover half of that half. So for example, if you have a counselor that usually charges $120 an hour and they're willing to knock that in half, that brings it down to $60 an hour. The foundation then covers half of that. Now you've got somebody that can see a counselor for $30 an hour with no insurance. And that's our goal. And we'd also help people that are insured. So if you've got insured, but you have a counselor that's out of network, then maybe your insurance doesn't cover, the same would apply. Or if you have a counselor in network, but you're just falling upon hard times, we would have the ability to help you out with covering half of your copay. So that's kind of the approach we want to take, is to make it affordable, because that's the other piece. And interviewing many counselors, the constant I've heard is two things. When I asked, why don't people talk to a counselor? They said, well, the number one reason is financial. But the other reason is they don't think they need help.
Right.
And I said, well, we can't fix the not thinking they don't need help other than through education. You know what I mean? And that's where the community involvement comes into play, and understanding and compassion. I said, but the financial piece we could definitely help with. And that's when the conversation opens up. And I just, speak to those counselors, and I've had a really good response. I mean, I haven't had a single counselor I've talked to yet that's told me no, that they would not reduce.
Tell me what that's been like, because that's what you're doing. It has such a collaborative spirit to it. And I think this is a time where people are feeling incredibly collaborative and looking for ways to help and do things differently. So have the counselors, I love to hear that. So the counselors have been positive in their response to you, because it's an interesting thing. I have a favorite counselor who I'll refer over, and she's just an amazing human being. And I know that, she is out there putting herself out all the time in a very collaborative fashion. And, counselors are different than MD psychiatrists. It's a different rate. It's a different world. It's a different approach. And so counselors aren't, just because you've got the counselor degree or you are practicing doesn't mean that you are earning a ton of money either. So for them to give back is generous, I think, very generous.
For sure. And, one thing I've learned is counselors, it takes a special kind of person to be a counselor, just like it takes a special kind of person to be a teacher. You know what I mean? You have to have a passion for it. So they don't do this for the money. I mean, obviously they have to make a living, but the majority of the counselors I've spoken with genuinely do this because they do care and they want to see people well. The other thing I've learned is, I don't know, and this is a question you may want to ask your counselor, Ted, but I know for a fact that my counselor actually sees a counselor herself. So, and a lot of counselors are recommended to do that, because if you think about it, they sit in a room and hear about people's troubles all day long. And that's got to take its toll on you. I know me as an empathetic person by nature, it would beat me down if I didn't have an outlet myself. So, you know, and again, that in itself should reduce the stigma. I mean, just because you're seeing a counselor doesn't mean you're weak, because even the counselors see counselors. You know what I mean? Again, who does a superhero go to for help? You know, they go to other superheroes. So
hey, Haley, you're getting a lot. You're getting a lot of love on the show. Just so you know, I can't read all the comments, but I'm watching. So some people have said to you, lots of strength. Give it. You guys can read it later, but I wanted to point out. I think it is brave of you. It's brave as an adult, right? You have to give kudos. This is a step to take that we're, because of the stigma, it's difficult. But as a young adult, I don't want to call you a child because you're not really a child. You're a young
she's
adult.
a child.
She's a child.
You're a child.
You're a child.
But I think it is brave. So if you don't mind, if your dad's okay with it and you're okay with it, tell us a little bit about how you're feeling about how this is progressing. Are you feeling good? Is it cathartic for you to get out and try to help build up MAGA?
I it's really exciting to be able to get out there and like help people out in like the community who need like mental health and everything, because I've been there. I'm still there to this day, as we all are, and it's really good to be helped by others. So I want to be able to put that impact on someone else and just help people out.
Spreading the word too, going out and taking a leap of faith like this is, and saying that we've been to counselors, have engaged in that in our lives, and people that don't like it can look and say, okay, so they're not in the loony bin. That doesn't mean that there's a loony bin involved. It just means that you, like Matt's been saying, you have to have somebody that you, and I want to talk a little bit about relationships, because there are a lot of people who say to me, well, my wife or my husband is my person I talk to. Well, if that person that is part of what you need to talk about, then you're leaving out an entire part of the things that you're trying to address. So having someone who you can talk about everything to doesn't mean that it's diminishing your relationship with your significant other. It just means that you have another outlet to help you get through it, to become aware and to have assistance with what you're going through.
Right.
100%, Ted. And you know, the reason that, and this was actually Melissa's idea, I can't take credit for this. I always give credit where credit's due, but it was Melissa's idea to kind of start the junior board. And I think it is extremely powerful because, you know, I'm not going to have the ability to reach out to the younger community like my daughter will and her friend Lauren. You know what I mean? And they can spread this through their school, through the youth groups and the teen groups at church, and also help reduce the stigma on that level. The struggle might be, and this is something that we've all discussed in our board meetings, is if you have a child who does need mental health counseling and the parents aren't on board. And that's going to be a difficult hurdle to overcome. And a lot of times the reason the parents aren't on board is because if that child goes to a counselor, that's going to open up flaws in the parents and ways the parents can improve. And a lot of people, again, it goes back to they don't want to admit their faults. It's accountability. There's a big difference between holding yourself accountable and beating yourself up. You know what I mean? It's a huge difference. And we all need to hold ourselves accountable because let's face it, none of us are perfect. But you can't do that without being called out on your nonsense either. You know what I mean? And without having somebody to talk to, when even if you're not in the wrong, you know, emotions are normal and we should have those things. You know, even Jesus wept. You know, it's not a sin and it's not a weak sign of weakness to cry or show emotion. But you have to be able to work through those things.
Agreed. All right. So the question I ask everybody who comes on the show, I just think it's important for people to see what different people do. What are the two of you doing personally? You personally, what are you doing to kind of handle this new norm, stress, stay positive? What do you do? Is there something you're doing? Prayer, obviously, I'm going to guess, but is something that you are doing differently or more often to continue to stay positive and creative?
Haley, I'm going to let you start on that one, kid. What are you doing? That's something I'd like to know from you as well.
Honestly, I've been watching like inspirational like YouTube videos and like just looking through quotes online, like mental health quotes and everything, kind of like what Lauren's posting on the foundation page. And I also listen to music that helps me like calm down and relieve stress and stuff.
Love that. Thank you. How about you, Matt?
So you hit one of them. Prayer obviously is huge for me. I enjoy motivational speaking. I read a lot of books. You know, I believe in constantly, you know, the more you know, the better. Um, Another thing that I've been doing is trying to be more patient with people. Understanding that everybody's going through their own struggles right now. And when people do get short with me or they do lash out, just, you know, trying to be aware that this is not an attack on me. It's something they're going through and it has nothing to do with me. A lot of times people project their own pain on others, and it's because they're comfortable with that person. You know what I mean? So they feel that they're in a safe zone. I've also been trying to be more forgiving, you know, because forgiveness is a key, not just to help the other person heal, but it's also even more so for yourself. You know, forgiveness allows you to break that chain, and release that bitterness and that grief and resentment. Lastly, communication. You know, I mean, me and my daughter went out last night and had a great walk around the lake of our old neighborhood, social distancing, obviously.
Oh, yes. 6 feet apart.
6 feet apart. But, you know, we had just a really good talk, and it gave me a chance to really hear my daughter's heart and learn more about her that I never really knew before, and see how much she has grown through the counseling that she's received and how much it really has helped. Because one thing, and Haley, not to put you out there, but I think it's important that people know our weaknesses. You know what I mean? My daughter from a young age had a very hard time expressing emotion to people. Whenever you talked about something, her go-to was to look down at the ground, clam up, and shut down. And I have seen that shift. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is she 100%? No, I don't think any of us will ever be that. But just the transition and the growth that I've seen in her, you know, has been real eye-opening. And if a 16-year-old girl is willing to go to counseling, because I know, Ted, me at 16, I was the one that should have been in counseling and I didn't, you know, so I give her kudos. And again, I give credit where credit's due. For somebody to be able to admit, you know, I need help, even at that, especially at that age, it takes a lot of, you know, a lot of strength and a lot of courage. So yeah, communication, conversations, really hearing the other person's heart that you're talking to. And even from a business standpoint, you know, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And the only way somebody's going to know, like, and trust you is to know who you are. I'm an open book. You know, I'll tell people whatever they want to know. I've got nothing to hide. You know, everything I've gone through is what's gotten me to where I'm at right now. So I wouldn't change a thing. But, you know, I am growing from the things that I did improperly.
That's perfect. Well, all right. So we know how to reach out to Matt. Matt is, I tagged you, Matt. How do people reach out? Do they reach out to you directly if they want to learn more about the foundation and they want to learn more, or they want to find a way to get help?
Absolutely.
What's the best way for them to contact you?
Absolutely. So for right now, Ted, we're still in the process of getting the 501c3 done. You know, the person that's been working with us on that, unfortunately, had a family emergency come up, and then this coronavirus hit. So it's been a little delayed, but we're hoping within the next 30 days, we'll have that up and operational. And we can't really take any kind of contributions, donations, anything like that until we have that, because I mean, we could, but people wouldn't be able to get the tax write-off, and we don't want that. You know, we want to make sure that they get credit also for their generosity. So we don't have the website up yet for that reason, but that will be coming up shortly. And once that comes up, we'll have a place where they can go donate. The first thing we're going to need, the most important piece, is in order to help others, we have to first be willing to help the cause. So we can't obviously help pay the half of the half without contributions from people like yourself and anyone else out there who's watching that are willing to be so generous as to contribute, you know? So that's what we need right now. We can't really move forward until we get that. We can't help people until we get help. So, and I know it's a tough time right now for everybody. You know, I understand a lot of people are being furloughed, losing their jobs, incomes being cut. So the timing there may not be right. And I completely understand. But, you know, once you guys get back on your feet, any help you could give, you know, reach out to me. I'll get you the information on how to donate. We do have a Cash App set up that we will be able to provide receipts for once we get 501c3. We'll have a link on our website once that's up and running. But yeah, I mean, once that happens, you know, that's kind of our first go-to, but they can reach out to me with any questions. Right now, we're not able to really offer the assistance part, but that's our goal. And I'm known for jumping in feet first and really trying to gung-ho, and I'm learning to slow down to speed up. So I think getting the word out there through your show, again, we really appreciate you having us on, is a big first step in bringing awareness to the foundation and letting people know that it is in the works.
Love it. All right. Well, I want to just give you both a shout out.
Before you do that, Ted, if I could, I want to go ahead. we've been working on a logo, and if you could, I'm going to tag Ronald Menace in this video as well, because he was the graphic designer that helped us with the logo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put that as the background here. This will be the air of our logo so everybody can see it. And I'm going to move out of the way so people can read it. It is, again, a faith-based organization. So there you go. Let me step out of the way here.
Love it.
So again, it goes back to the faith-based side of our organization. The cross represents, you know, faith, obviously, power through Christ, and then breaking the chains with the hands open, receiving help, because that's what we all need. We need to have our hands open and be willing to receive the help that's out there for us. So,
and I love the story behind it, MAGA.
I will tell you that I will never forget the night that I picked my daughter up at her Friendsgiving and had to break the news to her that her grandmother was no longer with us. It was the hardest time of my life as a dad. I didn't know if she'd ever bounce back, Ted, to be honest with you. I mean, she was just broken, but to see how much she's grown and the things that she's done, you know, and everybody, I've heard people say, well, Matt, it's because you've been such a good dad. But I'll be honest, I can't even take credit for someone else's free will. You know, I can't take credit for my daughter digging into her faith, seeing a counselor on her own cognizance, not because she was forced, and really trying to become a better person and turn dark moments into light, you know? So Haley, again, thank you for just hanging out there and hanging in there with us, you know, and I see great things for your future, kid. Just keep it up.
Love it.
Will do.
Thank you both for being on. Haley, you're definitely brave. I love it. I think you should give yourself big kudos. It's a big thing.
Round of applause.
Round of applause. That's right. All right, you guys are great. Matt and Haley Chase. I tagged Matt. Reach out to him. He's an open book, just like he said. And thank you guys for coming on and sharing your hearts.
Absolutely, Ted. Thank you for having us. And it's great to have you on board the foundation as well.
Absolutely. Excited. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Reach out to Matt, guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye, guys.